Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of the greatest games of all time. I know it's coming from a Kingdom Hearts fan, but I don't care. Fight me. We will never get tired of Kingdom Hearts 2. The story, the gameplay, the ending, the game is just about perfect, and that's a understatement. Which is why it's so fascinating that the PS3 port was as garbage as it is. Now, don't get me wrong, the game is playable on PS3, if playable means dying after waiting for your drive form to load, which people had to make guides for how to avoid, by the way. Introducing Kingdom Hearts 2.5 HD Remix, a game that a lot of people are very grateful for, including me, but admittedly, probably the worst version of Kingdom Hearts 2. Also, I'll continue the script when the game loads. Alright, there we go. Just imagine pausing your game mid-fight just so you don't get punished for going into your form change, which is one of the main gimmicks of the game, by the way. This, on top of the inconsistent load times, just made Kingdom Hearts 2.5 on the PS3 a very lackluster port if you had any recollection of the original game. Luckily, the PS4 required the games to have data installation, which would automatically speed things up. There are other issues in Kingdom Hearts 2.5 on the PS3 as well, like game crashes or freezes. One of the most known and consistent ones was the Xemnas fight. There was a crash in the original version of Kingdom Hearts 2.5 where if you went into limit form and did the tower reaction command for Xemnas, the game had a pretty likely chance of just freezing, crashing, not working. It was a pretty baffling bug in the game and was never fixed on the PS3 version. On top of this crash, there was also just some random freezes at the beginning of some fights in the game. It was almost like the game wasn't play tested. I think the fact that I found the weirdest was that some of these problems were amplified or specific to the English version of the remixes. Like, for example, the load times were worse on the English version of 2FM PS3 compared to the Japanese one. They were still pretty bad on both, but the English version was definitely worse. The theory that Biscuit047 and others mentioned in his video covering this almost 8 years ago was that the game was loading the English text on top of the Japanese text in the game, which still would just be so weird to have. Like, why is the English game loading way worse than the Japanese version? That shouldn't even be a thing. The PS3 version of Kingdom Hearts 2 had a lot of issues, but considering the vanilla version of the game that a lot of people would be coming from, it was essentially a new game for a lot of people. For quite a lot of new Kingdom Hearts fans, this was the first time they'd play Kingdom Hearts 2, especially Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. So a lot of the bad that was in the port, in the remix, was heavily outweighed by people experiencing things like the data bosses, absent silhouettes, finally getting to play the Roxas fight, or fighting Lingering Wolf for the first time, which is very understandable. I'm glad that a lot of these problems didn't hamper everyone's experience of Final Mix for the first time, or that some were able to look past them to find their favorite game. It's just that these issues definitely did exist, and if you were aware of them, and especially if you played the previous versions of the game on the PS2, or even through other means, it left a lot to be desired. While most of these problems would be fixed on the PS4 port, the PS4 port would still have some other issues, mostly just really goofy 60 FPS bugs, which I have to admit were extremely funny, and some leftovers from 2.5 on the PS3, like the reaction command on Xemnas' final fight and the limit form crash on the first Xemnas fight. Oh yeah, there was this weird thing in the final fights for Xemnas where you just didn't have the reaction command spawn for some reason at the beginning of the fight, where you would dodge his vine moves. Sometimes it just wouldn't show up and you would get hit, not be able to do the fight correctly if you were learning the fight, trying to, perfect it or anything like that. It was very odd. And there was a new crash as well. There was a save crash that started happening on the PS4 version that was very random. This was something I definitely remember experiencing when I first played the PS4 version. You would just save the game and sometimes it would crash. A lot of the 60 FPS bugs were eventually fixed a little while after the game was released on PS4, but enough problems were eventually fixed overall on the PS4 version that despite some of the leftover issues, the positives of having 2FM at 60 FPS, the insanely fast load times and HD textures, it was fair enough to say that this was probably the best version of Kingdom Hearts 2FM that had released. This was an ongoing frustration with Square when it came to not even just Kingdom Hearts for years. For some reason, whenever Square Square Enix ported their games, it basically would feel like they didn't playtest them at all. This was even true with the somewhat recent PC ports of the entire Kingdom Hearts franchise, where virtually all the games except Kingdom Hearts 3, funny enough, was nearly unplayable due to the amount of crashes that would happen. If you played the PS3 versions or played the PS4 versions at launch, this blew both of those out of the water. These crashes were nonsensical. They weren't crashes necessarily tied to specific events, but just the most random crashes you could possibly think of. Let's go fight this nobody that just spawned. Crash. Oh, I'm midway through this cutscene. Crash. Oh, let me heal myself. Crash. Let me walk forward in the game. Crash. They'll be random, and in a game where you have to save to maintain your progress, not every Kingdom Hearts game had autosave, it was especially frustrating. These problems luckily were fixed, but this did go on for months, to the point where multiple people in the community were rallying behind a hashtag to fix Kingdom Hearts on PC. It was really bad. Luckily, though, again, these problems were fixed, and I'd say the PS4 and PC versions both coexist now as the two best options for anyone who'd like to play and experience the Kingdom Hearts series. Personally, I'd lean towards PC, but the console versions go on sale for dirt cheap very often, so it's hard to argue against that. Also, convenience. I remember in the old days of Kingdom Hearts where we fantasized about Kingdom Hearts games getting ported to modern consoles. There was a significant period of time where people had their PS3s and Kingdom Hearts was just being released on handhelds. The games were great, but console Kingdom Hearts was still stuck on the PS2, so despite all the problems and stress these mediocre collections put us through, the happiness of finally getting Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 on modern consoles was overwhelming, and Final Mix on top of that too, it was great. Which, annoyingly enough, might be a reason why they didn't bother to patch a lot of these games. They knew we'd be happy just getting the ports, so they probably didn't care that much how they turned out. I would like to think otherwise, but that's definitely how it felt in retrospect, which is definitely something I'm not a fan of, and I think is very stupid. I know this video sort of turned into a semi-history lesson and rant about Kingdom Hearts ports, but sometimes it is just fun to look at where we are now and reflect on where we once were. As I alluded to, there was a time where we didn't know if we'd get ports of Kingdom Hearts just ever, and look where we are now, with mostly good ports and Sora and Smash. It's a good time to be a Kingdom Hearts fan, whether you're a fan of the new games or the old. And the future of the series, I think, is looking pretty bright, so we have a lot to look forward to as well on top of that. Before we end this video off though, I mentioned him before, but I want to give a proper shout out to Biscuit047, who did a very good job of documenting a lot of this information I used in this video. He's one of the most knowledgeable Kingdom Hearts fans in the community, and if you want to dive deeper into some of these ports and their issues at that time, I'll be sure to link his channel down below so you can check out those videos, along with his Twitch where he still streams every so often. Other than that though, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, share it with a friend or family member, and last but not least, if you have not already and want to become a part of the union, all you have to do is hit the red subscribe button down below. My name is Prodigy, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out to you guys. Bye.
Now she's a daydreamer. She's always thinking about him. No more room in this picture. You'd have fit in. Now she's crying.